Welcome to Glenwood Cemetery, the only public cemetery in Maynard and the only place in the town to be in the National Register of Historic Places. Though the cemetery officially opened in 1871, the same year that the town was incorporated, the earliest burial on this plot of land dates back to 1820. The first person to be buried in the cemetery after its formal opening was Thomas H. Brooks. The cemetery covers over 23 acres and houses over 6,000 graves today. It was built as a garden cemetery, a style popular at the time that sought to create a calming and serene place that the living could honor the dead. Part of the land for the cemetery was purchased from the Maynard family, and so it makes sense that many members of that family are buried here. You are standing in front of the Maynard family crypt, a 12-foot-tall structure that was finished in 1880. Currently, there are 22 people buried in the crypt, with the last being interred in 2006. Amory, his wife Mary, and his son Harlan are interred in the crypt. For a brief period of time, so was Lorenzo, before he finished his own mausoleum in the Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge and was reinterred there in 1904. There are 8 vaults in the crypts here at Glenwood, with each holding 3 caskets. The front doors are marble and a stained glass skylight adorns the ceiling. Though the Maynard family probably holds the record for the most famous burials in the cemetery, there are some other interesting stories about graves worth exploring. For example, 54 Civil War veterans are buried here on these very grounds. Guyer Fowler's grave can be found in Section 2 of the Old Cemetery. He was a veteran of the First World War and he died in 1964. The Fowler Middle School was named after him because of his family's rich history. His grandfather signed the petition to incorporate the town of Maynard, and his father founded the Fowler Kennedy Funeral Home, a business still existing today. Guyer himself took over the family business and moved the location to where it stands on Concord Street today. Artemus Whitney is buried in Section 3 of the Old Cemetery. He worked with Amory Maynard to construct the mill pond and the Ben Smith Dam when Maynard was working toward founding his mill. Section 1 is home to graves of employees who died in explosions at the powder mill in current Powder Mill Village. There are newspaper accounts of explosions so severe that workers' body parts had to be collected in buckets. Finally, Section 7 of the Old Cemetery is dedicated to unmarked graves. During a smallpox epidemic in 1885, victims were buried in mass graves. Nearly 40 years later, victims of the Spanish flu faced a similar fate. Using radar technology to penetrate deep into the layers of the earth, we know that those in Section 7 were victims of epidemics, from cholera to smallpox to the Spanish flu. Fun fact, did you know that when the Spanish flu made its way to Maynard, schools were closed for 5 weeks? Sounds familiar, right? You may be asking yourself, why have I been referring to parts of the cemetery as the Old Cemetery? Well, during the Great Depression, the Works Progress Administration created a slew of new jobs by putting people to work improving the cemetery for 2 years. The improvements started in 1934 and included laying out an expansion of the cemetery, as well as erecting a new iron fence along Parker Street. The old cemetery occupies this higher ground, and the new lies just below a gentle slope. Much of the WPA's hard work was destroyed by the hurricane of 1938, which knocked down the spruce trees and gazebo which used to stand just behind you. The Maynard Historical Commission has worked to replace the WPA's iron fence with an updated, historically accurate replica. One more interesting fact. Have you ever wondered what this tomb is for? It's marked with the year 1888, and it was used as a temporary place to hold coffins while graves were being dug, especially in the winter, when the ground was frozen and hard to break through. Blocks of ice would be stored alongside the coffins to prevent the bodies from decomposing in what is known as the receiving tomb. Nearly everyone in Maynard knows someone who is buried in this very cemetery. It's wonderful to pay respect to loved ones who are no longer with us, but next time you're visiting, take some time to walk around and explore some of the graves you've never seen before. History is full of ghosts. Remembering those from the past keeps their memories alive.